essays I read, you talked about that, like so low self-esteem, and he was trying to prove himself to the world, and that was a little interesting because in my after medical school, I did some internship in psychiatry.
Wow.
So Ravi talks about how he tried to commit suicide when he was like 17 years old, and on his deathbed, he became a Christian. That was the story he told the world.
Right.
And with Lorian Thompson also, when she wanted to disclose their online relationship to her husband,
Hmm.
he told in the emails that he would commit suicide. And I wondered why suicide was looming so large on his subconscious.
Ravi describes in his autobiography a book called Walking from East to West. He describes a very tormented relationship he had with his father. His father was a violent, um, very strict man who would beat Ravi, who would insult him, who would humiliate him in front of other people and say, "You're never going to go anywhere. You're going to be a shame to the family." And so poor Ravi had to grow up hearing this. And it's very clear from his autobiography, he desperately wanted to be a success. He needed to show his father that he was going to be that he was successful, and he needed to show his friends. And Ravi didn't attempt, according to his story, he didn't attempt suicide because he was depressed or because he had psychological issues. He simply did not think he was going to go anywhere in life. Now, this is his story. So, but I should also tell you that I looked quite closely into Ravi's suicide story, and I don't think it happened. And I don't want to bore you with the details because, first of all, I don't know if I remember them all anymore. But Ravi tended to make up stories. We know of lots of examples of stories that he made up. Stories that made his Christian commitment look more dramatic or more genuine and more powerful. And his suicide story just looks like it's something he made up because he needed, in addition to being a better preacher than you, and in addition to having more charisma than you, he needed a more dramatic conversion story than you. Right? This is part of his competitive nature. He needed to be the best. He needed a better degree from a better school than you went to, so he made up Oxford. He needed better scientific credentials than you, so he made up having studied quantum physics at Cambridge. He needed a better conversion story than you, so he made up this very touching story about, as a youth, age 17 years old, going to the chemistry lab at his school one day, taking poison, and the next morning when nobody was home, swallowing the poison, and then finding Jesus on a bed of suicide in the hospital. There are so many problems with Ravi's suicide story, so many contradictions, so many things that don't make sense, that I think the best explanation for that is to look at it perfectly consistently with who Ravi was and how he made himself dramatic and famous. It was a lie. It was a story he made up for his own image. That's my opinion. I don't know if that's true, but if I had to bet $1 million on that right now, I would bet that it was a fabricated story.